And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Great Lakes Honda City coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York, here with you Monday through Saturday. They are open for sales and service. And of course, you can go to GreatLakesHondaCity.com 24/7, so make sure you get in touch with them there. Appreciate your patience here this morning as we got set and ready to go. A lot of great things coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and I appreciate y'all for being with us up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.mixlr.com, live internet streaming radio. So hope you're having yourselves a wonderful morning. We got a great show set up for you. You know it's Thursday, which means that we will start the broadcast off with my Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week. I take all the sports going on in Central and Upstate New York at the time, and with all of those sports, choose one student athlete in Central and Upstate New York, and that student athlete is going to be honored in just a moment, proudly presented by Meier's Creek. Excited for that. And then at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time, we will head back to the NBA Finals and back to our conversation with Dave Paziak, the longtime head coach and analyst of the beautiful game of basketball. We'll be discussing the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history from the biggest deficit, 29 points down, 81-52, and all the way back to a one-point victory, 107-106, from the man they call OG Anunoby. We'll be speaking with Dave Paziak about it at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time, and we'll round out the show at 10 a.m. Eastern Time in hour number 2 with the executive director of the Coca-Cola Bowl season, fresh off of the FBS Bowl schedule being released for the upcoming 2026-27 season. So without further ado, let's jump right into the Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week, proudly presented by Meier's Creek. This week's Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week, proudly presented by Meier's Creek, with two locations on 33 Rippleton Road in Cazenovia and on 720 Van Rensselaer Street in Syracuse, New York, goes to Colin Crinan. Colin Crinan getting honored as our Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week. He's been out here doing his thing with his team. The West Genesee Wildcats are still alive in the state playoffs, and they continue to rock and roll with an opportunity to go into the state semifinals after becoming Section 3 Class AA champs, and Colin being honored after a game where he had 10 strikeouts. That's a lot of Ks right there. 10 strikeouts, 4 hits, and 1 run he allowed with 1 walk in 6 innings in a close 2-1 victory over Bethlehem that advances West Genesee to the New York State semifinals. Colin Crinan making it happen from the mound, rocking and rolling, and making sure these Wildcats keep clawing away at it as they step forward on a fantastic season where they've already become section champions, Section 3 Class AA champions, I should say, and are now moving on to the state semifinal round. Colin, just a huge congratulations to you and to your entire team, and to everything the West Genesee is doing. Kevin Krause had the opportunity to spend time with him at the Wildcat Sports Pub. As you know, we're out at the Wildcat all throughout the year with West Genesee, and so I have, of course, sat with the baseball program and was actually texting Kevin Krause last night, and reached out to Colin as well and said, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be honoring you in the morning, so just wanted to give respect where respect is due, and I know the West Genesee Wildcats are doing this thing together, and so I want to not only congratulate the hard work, dedication, and determination of Colin Crinan, but I also want to give a shout out and much love to all of West Genesee, to the student athletes that have come together to make this season what it has been, and of course to Kevin Krause and everybody that helps in the coaching world with this team, as well as the boosters and the families that are showing up for these kids and loving these kids and just being a part of the journey. Everybody is a part of the road, and I gotta show love for the West Genesee community. It's been fantastic to me over the years, and I know that they're out here doing great things, and I have a lot of respect and a lot of appreciation for that community. So just want to show that love where love is due, and once again say to Colin Crinan, congratulations on being our Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week, proudly presented by Myers Creek. Make sure you head out to Myers Creek today and all throughout the week. Myers Creek is there for you on 720 Van Rensselaer Street in Syracuse, New York, in the Syracuse Inner Harbor, and it's out on the countryside as well, and you can go and see them there on 33 Rippleton Road in Cazenovia. Once again, honoring the man who had 10 strikeouts while only 4 hits and 1 run and 1 walk happening in 6 innings in the state playoffs in a 2-1 close defensive victory over Bethlehem that has advanced West Genesee to the New York State semifinals and 2 games from being crowned New York State champions as they continue to work toward that, and Class AA champions already in Section 3. To Colin Crinan and the work he's done on the mound, congratulations, Colin. Congratulations, West Genny. I know you're not done yet, so God bless and safe travels. And a big-time shout-out to the man who went out there and put 10 Ks on the board. Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week, proudly presented by Myers Creek. The man and the hard-working gentleman, student-athlete, Mr. Colin Crinan. And Colin, I got to say this to you. I was spending some time with Dylan Wiggins, who I honored last week from Liverpool, their pitcher. And I was spending some time with him yesterday, and he simply said, "That's my guy." So it's nice to see that even when you're not on the same team, and even when you might be going up against each other and be right in the same community, that real recognizes real and that there's respect there. So just so you know, Colin, Dylan said, "That's my guy." So God bless, and moving forward, congratulations on being our Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week. And my best to you, Colin, and the Wildcats, and Coach Krause, and everybody with the West Genesee community. Colin, you're rocking it. Keep it going. Much respect. So with that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we will take a quick step aside for a fast break, and when we spin back around, we're heading from the field to the court as it's time to get back into that basketball world, folks. Game 4 was one of the wildest things that, not just in basketball, that maybe you have ever seen. A 29-point deficit erased by the New York Knicks, who in the fourth quarter were just chipping away, down 15, and then something happens, and then down 15 again, and then down 12, and then it's single digits, and then all of a sudden it's a close game, and then the Knicks take the lead. And OG Anunoby, man, I'm so proud of him. I'm a Toronto Raptor fan through and through from day 0, and he was a part of the championship run, albeit injured in 2019 with the Raptors. You know, he was a part of that. So he knows what this moment feels like. And to come up the way he did and tip that ball in, I mean, just everything about that play. We'll talk about it with Dave Paziak and more right after we step aside here inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Stay with us.
This is Jim Dispenza, owner of Game Point Sports Complex. You hear the same story across any sport that kids play and any sport that adults play. There's never enough places to play. That was definitely true with volleyball, definitely true with basketball. Could be cheerleading, it could be field hockey, which is what we're seeing now. Every sport has a lack of places to play, and I think Syracuse in particular is a place where it's really bad, despite the fact that we've got a lot of athletic talent around here. We just seem to have not enough places for people to play, and they're going to different places. They're going to Rochester, they're going to, Buffalo. They're going all different places because we don't have a place here, and I felt like that should change. This was a long project from planning all the way through execution to opening doors. A lot of work went into it, obviously, a lot of money, a lot of resources, and the dream always was kids being in the gym, having a good time. And I've always felt like sports is the most unfiltered joy that you can observe with people that people can experience, because it is fun, it is a sense of accomplishment, it's all of that wrapped into one thing. And so watching kids going up and down the court with big smiles on their faces has been just amazing experience. I'm looking forward to years to come of that same thing. We've taken the time to invest in multiple sports, and then what we're finding is the mere fact that we have a large, clean, well-lit space has opened a lot more doors for us beyond basketball, volleyball, pickleball. Now we're having some interest from cheerleading. We've got girls field hockey coming in, and then also there's quite a bit of room for spectators. We've got bleachers, we've got benches, we've got a concession lounge where people can get food and drink. We're going to have multiple sports going at the same time, using every square inch of this place for what it was conceived for, which is basically people to come in, have a good time in the sport that they prefer. We manage each situation differently. Everybody has different ability to afford different things. Some are bringing 10, 15 people, some are just 2 people. I've had a lot of situations where it's a father shooting around with his son, it's a mother playing pickleball with her daughter or with her son, and then those situations come up and we work with people, and that's allowed us to have groups from 2 people up to 30 people and have some flexible pricing behind it. We're an organization that is here to work with the community any way we can, and I guess part of it is just making sure that we have the flexibility to put together a plan that makes sense regardless of the size of your group. So in order to book time, the best option is to go to our website, gamepointsports-syr.com. You can click from there and sign up for events, sign up for your own particular training, sign up for birthday parties, all of that.
And welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. And what a crazy night last night was. I am so excited to talk about this. You would think that I was born a Knicks fan. So we are here on the broadcast with Dave Paziak. DT and DP is what we call it. Dave, the longtime basketball head coach and analyst of the game. And when it comes to speaking about the world of basketball, this is someone that I've called upon for over a decade, and he's always shown up. DT and DP here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios on the heels of the largest comeback in NBA Finals history. 29-point deficit, 81-52. And the Knicks win 107-106, and the OG of OGs made it happen. And I texted Dave last night a very simple message. That's my Raptor. Mr. Paziak, how we doing?
Doing pretty good, Dan. How about you?
I'm doing well. I mean, listen, I'm not a Knicks fan, and I don't want Knicks people to at me right now. Leave me alone. So this is my thing. I am so, and I'm prefacing it by saying this because I'm not bandwagoning this thing. I just love seeing, I love sports so much that when it's not my team, I can still respect the heck out of the moment. Being a Raptor fan, we've talked about the fact that the Knicks typically take players from the Raptors, and it's happened. John Wallace, who played for Syracuse, he was, a Knick Raptor. And when I'm watching the game last night, even though I'm not a Knick fan, I couldn't help but want to see this happen. I couldn't help but want to see it for New York because at the end of the day, I am a New Yorker, born and raised. So I think that from my point of view, and I know you're a Sixer fan, but from my point of view, being born in the state of New York, loving the state of New York, and wanting the best for the state of New York, and being at the Garden for multiple events over the years, and being right by the Garden pretty much every single year with some things that we do with my company, thinking of the Mecca, on top of being a New Yorker, on top of OG Anunoby, and obviously respecting him from the Raptors, I couldn't help but just jump into the excitement yesterday. And it was one of the most incredible moments that I've ever seen in my life. And I say great for the Knicks, and apparently San Antonio fell asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, you gotta bust out the famous Joe Buck call right on the Kirk Gibson homer. I can't believe what I just seen.
Yeah,
but
it was nuts.
It was crazy. It was. I mean, as euphoric as it was for the Knicks, it's equally painful or even more so for the Spurs last night. It was um, one of the craziest things you'll ever see.
It it was so surreal. So I turned the game on, and so it's on in the first quarter, and it was out of hand, and I just I was like, okay. I mean, is this what it's going to be like? And I think like very quickly the Knicks were down by 21, and I was like, this is the beginning of the game, and you're in the Garden. Like, what are you doing? And I mean, is this how it's going to be? Like, you go on the road and you're a different team than you are at home, and it's kind of weird because most people think it's the opposite, right? You play your best at home and not as well on the road, but the Knicks played well on the road. So I'm like, are they really going to drop two, even the series, go back to San Antonio, and you don't know what's going to happen? Victor Wembanyama takes over, and is this just a sad story for the Knicks? So that's how it felt in the beginning. And then I kind of walked away from it. I had some things I had to do. And so, I'm getting some things done last night. And then I come back and I'm like, all right, you know what? I want to put it on. I want to have it here. So, back on in the third quarter. And I'm paying attention, not paying attention. And I'm thinking to myself, I literally thought this, Dave. I go, do I have to watch the rest of this debacle? Or can I just talk to Dave about it in the morning saying this was ridiculous? Like, do I have to sit here and watch them continue to bleed out? And then they just cracked. And I'm on the computer and I'm getting my work done. And so TV's here, computer's here. And so you got the sound up and you're just hearing them chip away and getting it down to 15, and then it goes back and then back down to 15 again, and then it goes to 12, and then it goes to single digits, and you're like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And I've been at games like this before where Syracuse came back and defeated Virginia after being down 16 when I was out in Chicago at the time. So I en route to the Final Four for them the last time they were there, 2016. So how did you experience it? Because I was like, I don't want to watch this if this is what it's going to be. But then I was like, whatever, I'm going to turn it on. I got to talk about it in the morning. I want to be fresh with it. I want to see it in real time. And then it was more of me listening to the audio of it because I was like doing something well. And I was just hearing the return of the Knicks. So how did you experience it? And at any point in the game, did you shut it off?
Didn't shut it off. I thought, like watching the game live, I thought the Raptors needed one, like as they came into the second half, they traded baskets a little bit, got to 29. I'm like, if they can make one push and get it past 30 and kind of like leave it there to the end of the third quarter, then both teams would start, basically packing it in and looking to game five. Um, as soon as it got to 29, the Knicks went on, I think, a 14-point run.
Yeah.
And the Spurs, 8 straight possessions took threes, most of which were quick and contested. And during that little Knick bounce where they got it from 29 to 15. And I'm watching that and I'm saying this might get interesting. And
Yeah.
then the Spurs kind of, righted the ship to an extent. Got it. And the thing that, I'll back up a little bit. Right at the start of the second half, Castle picked up his 4th foul right away.
Yeah.
And like when that happened, I said, this is not going to be good for the Spurs because Castle's been their best matchup on Brunson throughout the series. He's a guy that plays him the best and demands the least amount of help to play him. So he gets the 4th foul right away. And so I figured that's not good for the Spurs. But then, like I said, they, a couple minutes in, they bumped it to 29 and I'm like, thought they're one little bump away from putting the game away. And the Knicks went on that quick run and cut it to 15. And it's like, this might get interesting.
Yeah.
And then same thing, second half, they got it to, I think they pushed it back to 20 early in the fourth. And then the Knicks went on another big run, something like 17-3 or something, and got it down to 4. And then it's like, then coming down the stretch, I'm like, the Spurs better find a way to win it here because if this goes overtime, they got no shot. So I was never at the point where I was going to shut it off, but I
Yeah.
was at the point where I thought San Antonio with one little bump in the third quarter could have really put the game on ice and got both teams thinking about game five.
Yeah, and I was sitting there last night saying to myself, like, is this really where we're going? Is this really what it's going to be? And are we? I mean, are the Knicks really going to do this to themselves? So, you know, I mean, they've had a tremendous run, and I don't think a lot of people gave them the credit that they were going to get to this moment, and that I don't know if people gave them credit that they were going to get to the final four teams, that they were going to get to their own conference finals. I mean, I don't know that that was something that was really on the minds of people. I think the Knicks were still like, okay, they're a few pieces away. Let's see how they do and this and that. But here they are getting to this moment, and I don't know if some are still thinking they're just happy to be here because they weren't supposed to be here. But I think people forget about the fact that in the same vein, we're San Antonio supposed to be here. Oklahoma City's the best team, right, in the country. So Oklahoma City, they faltered, and San Antonio took advantage. And the Knicks took advantage of the fact that, I mean, look at what the Knicks did. The Knicks went through these series like Oklahoma City was expected to go through. The Knicks were sweeping teams. So I think this whole notion of the Knicks are just happy that, there's basketball this late in the season at the Garden, that's not a fair assessment of who they are. And I just wonder yesterday if during the game and during the drought for the Knicks and during this large margin of deficit, if people were starting to think like, oh, they're being the team we thought they were going to be. They ran through these series and now they've run out of gas. I mean, what's your take on it? Do you believe that they've garnered the respect, or do you still think that people look at them like they're the little engine that could and they're just happy to be here type of thing?
I don't think there's any sense of happy to be there with the Knicks. I think they're a team that, they've been taking those incremental steps every year. And I think that's why, they made the move with Thibodeau is they're trying to, I think from a Knicks perspective, I mean, like from the team standpoint, I think this was their goal and they expected to be in the NBA finals and competing for a championship. And I think if anything, some of the choppiness during the season, derailed those thoughts a little bit. Um, I think leading into the finals, uh, I mean, the 13 game run was tremendous, like hadn't been done. But I also think some things broke in their favor. So maybe people didn't view them um, quite as seriously as they should. Um, the Hawks had them down and they looked like a really vulnerable team, right? Then they flipped the switch. And we've talked about before, Mike Brown gets a lot of credit because he's been, for a guy who's been kind of a not very creative offensive guy, defensive minded coach in his past.
Yeah.
Like he's been pretty creative and pretty flexible, with some of the adjustments they've made series to series and within series. But they got Philly coming off a 7 game series with a big rest advantage, right? And then they got Cleveland, same situation. The Knicks sweep. Cleveland's coming off a 7 game series. So I mean, so the Knicks had some inherent advantages going into both of those series. Um, get to the finals, a little bit more rest, youthful team in the Spurs. The one advantage that I think we thought the Knicks had coming in was they've kind of been through the wars and the beauty of the NBA is teams generally have to go through the struggle to get to the mountaintop, and the Knicks have certainly gone through the struggle. And I think that has played itself out in this series because I mean, you can look at it, the Spurs have jumped in front in every game. Spurs have been in position to win every game. I mean, a couple bounces of the ball, a couple of little smarter plays here and there, and this thing's 3-1 or 4-0 San Antonio at this point. So, so it hasn't been like the Knicks have run the Spurs off the court, but they've been the team that had that little bit of poise, composure, um, ability to execute, ability to manage the game late,
Yeah.
and that has been the difference. And in terms of the big comeback, I mean, you go back to the Cleveland series, they're down 22, 7 minutes to go against the Cavaliers in the first game, came back and won. So, the Knicks have shown the ability to play from underneath, and they've really played from underneath this whole series. So,
Yeah, and I think as strong as they've been, and I don't think the Knicks are in the mentality of just happy to be here. I look at it more of, is that how some people not a fan of the Spurs or the Knicks look at the series as like the average fan and be like, oh, well, no matter what, it's been a minute since they've gotten here. And listen, New York is New York, and New York, I mean, they want to win a championship every single year. New York wants to win every game. I don't think Spike Lee ever walks in to the Garden and says, well, we got a good enough record that we don't have to win the next 3 games. So, and this is me again saying, though I'm not a Knick fan, I'm happy for what's happening because I've been to the city so many times and I've been around the city and been around the Garden. And I feel like the Garden has it's been lacking, right? There's been weeds growing around the Garden figuratively because it's been such a long time that when I see the Garden lit up in orange and blue, I'm having a different experience because of my experience with the Garden. And when I'm in New York City, my just closeness to the area. If I'm not inside the Garden, I'm by the Garden, I'm walking by it. There's certain events I do where I'm walking by the Garden all the time. So, I mean, I guess subconsciously think about wanting this place to be rocking and wanting it to have these moments. And I gotta say, I mean, Larry David, Jerry Seinfeld, there's so many, the cast of characters that were out there, Adam Sandler and his wife, and just seeing that side of it, Dave, as the fans got excited and they thought maybe, just maybe, and then you see all of these faces that, millions of people, billions of people know, they're in the crowd just having that childlike reaction. I think that was the most, one of the most fun parts of it is looking at all these celebrities just mouthing, oh my gosh, no way, I can't believe it. I thought that was a great thing. And I will also say to that vein, Dave, for so many people worried about Donald Trump on Game 3, he was set back away from everyone with plexiglass. Why weren't people bothered by Ben Stiller sitting courtside? He could yell at them a lot easier than Trump, I guess is my question.
yeah, I think that, I mean, the Trump thing was immediate. I mean, if you look at the coverage, they went to Trump twice, once in the national anthem and once like early in the second half. So, and it was really a non-factor. I think the celebrity thing is really interesting, as far as the Knicks go. Spike, of course, I mean, he's been a fixture at Knicks games um, for a long time, but
Yeah.
this guy Chalamet, I don't even know who he is. I mean, he's gets more camera time than any of them.
Yeah, I
Um,
think he's from Dune, the movie Dune.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm because I was like I was thinking about that when I was rattling off the names. I'm like I know his face, but his name escapes me. But I think that's the guy because you're right. He's been on camera. He was on camera last night.
yeah. There was, I think it was The Athletic ran a really interesting piece about the Knicks organization and the celebrities and people getting comped to games and when they get comped, what the expectations are. And it's like Spike pays for his seats and has forever. But a lot of these celebs, they're like comp, but in return, like the Knicks expect them to stay in their seats the whole game. They'll leave in early. Expect them, I mean, Taylor Swift was all over the TV last night.
Of course.
Um, so I think the Knicks, it's been the kind of thing where the Knicks have leaned into the celebrity role thing. The Knicks and the Lakers have done the same thing on the West Coast, Jack Nicholson for years, right?
Yeah.
But they've leaned into that heavily as a big marketing thing and trying to establish the Garden as the place to be. I think that, the unfortunate thing about this series is, I mean, people that have been diehard Knicks fans their whole lives, so a lot of them, they're either priced out of going to the games or some of the season, longtime season ticket holders, they got a little bit of values judgment, do I hold my seat to see something that I've been waiting for and may never happen again, or do I flip my seat when I can get 20 grand for it?
Yeah.
So I think like that's kind of tough for for the longtime Knicks fan. So you feel for them, but you know, the Knicks have had like I think historically, and for a variety of reasons. I mean, and there's been a period of time where the franchise under Dolan has been a train wreck. Um, but I think the team itself, the Knicks and the city, have had um, kind of a special relationship, even more so than like the Yankees or the Rangers or the New York Giants or Jets or whatnot or the Mets. So I think the Knicks hold a place in the city's heart
Yeah.
even more so than those teams. And I think part of it is it has been such a struggle for them. And they haven't won a championship since '73. So I think there's a lot of New Yorkers have been kind of hanging on that for years.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the Knicks, it's funny because the Yankees have had so many championships, but I almost feel like the Knicks are treated to the same degree. Even though they haven't won as many and it's been 53 years, I feel like the expectation in New York are if the Yankees don't make it to the World Series, they're failing. And if the Knicks aren't making it to the finals, they're failing. So, I mean, but in the same kind of conversation, I feel like people have more so accepted that the Mets are not going to. There's an expectation that the Yankees make it no matter what. Aaron Judge is hurt, doesn't matter. Garrett Cole's down, still got to figure it out. But with the Mets, who spend more money than the Yankees right now, which I never thought I would see happen, and they're second only to the Dodgers, I, I get a sense of Mets fans expect the season to fall apart at some point. Yankees fans expect the season to rebuild itself if it falls apart. I see like a tale of two boroughs, essentially, where Yankee fans are never going to let go of the season, where Mets fans are like 60 games in going, all right, it's a wash. But then the Knicks are in this place where they're not the Mets, they're not the Yankees, but I feel like they're treated more like the Yankees than the Mets, where it's not just like, whatever. It's there's and I don't know if it's because it's the Garden, but I feel like there's a level that the Knicks are held to that the Mets are not held to, that the Jets are not held to. I would argue that maybe the Giants are held there, but if I had to put my feet to the fire of all the teams in New York, I think there's like the Giants are not supposed to fail. The Jets are expected to. The Yankees are not supposed to fail. The Mets are expected to. And then somewhere amidst all of this, I feel like the Knicks are more on the side of there's an expectation in the Garden versus how the Mets and the Jets are treated.
Yeah, I think like in basketball, you can kind of draw the same comparison between the Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, 100%.
I think that, the Yankees and the Giants and um, and the Rangers and the Knicks, they're like the first team of New York City. But I think in the case of the Knicks, um, I think if you polled New Yorkers and you say, would you rather have a Knicks World Championship or a Yankees World Series championship? I think New Yorkers, I think that the Knicks have more of a tie in New York City than any of those other teams. And I think part of that is basketball is such a part of the culture in New York City too.
Yeah.
So I think that plays into it as well. But you're right. Like every year you hear about like the Knicks are going to make this move in free agency. The Knicks are going to do this. The Knicks are going to do that. The Knicks stunk last year, but they're going to be competing for a championship this year. So there is I think part of it is an expectation, and part of it is just this like a severe desire to see this by long-suffering, long-standing Knicks fans.
Yeah, I mean, I would say to the point that you made, I think the moment that they made the trade for Carmelo Anthony and gave up almost their entire roster, I think every year that Carmelo was there was an expectation that they were supposed to win a championship. I don't think it was make the playoffs. I think the entire era of Carmelo was, oh, we're going to win a title at some point within this. And because the Knicks make the moves and the Knicks have the players, And I go back and I look at the team. And by the way, shout out to John Starks, who was there last night, seeing him, Latrell Sprewell, and Larry Johnson, Grandma Ma. Good seeing him out there. I mean, there was a bunch of guys that were a part of the fabric of this of this Knicks history that were out there. And I mean, I'll always remember Larry Johnson as a Hornet, but I know he spent his time with New York and Charles Oakley. I don't know if the Garden. I mean, did they make amends with Oakley? Is he allowed to be there again?
No,
But
Oakley's like the one guy out of the the famous Knicks of old.
yeah.
He's the one guy. I think Dolan will let him come back in, but Oakley won't go back to the Garden until Dolan apologized to him.
But here's
So,
the
because for
thing.
a while Dolan banned him because Oakley criticized Dolan.
I look at it like this. I mean, Latrell Sprewell, didn't he choke somebody out? But he was there last night. So, you know what I mean? So, I mean, you
Yeah.
got Sprewell, you have, but when you go back, and this is again, I think I'm making this point our entire conversation, even though I'm not a Knick fan and I am a Raptor fan, I still knew the Knicks team growing up. I knew the John Starks, Chris Childs, Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, you knew the roster of the Knicks because they were Allen Houston, because they were a pain in the butt to play. Like, you knew the Knicks because you couldn't not know the Knicks if you were watching basketball. And I mean, John Wallace, who came from Syracuse and obviously spent time with the New York Knicks. And when Carmelo Anthony went there, you couldn't help but keep an eye on it because of that big move and what he did in Denver and, really helping to put Denver on the map before everything that we're seeing in the here and now NBA. So I think, to everything we're talking about today, the Knicks just, you're not a fan, but you know them. Like, you may not be a fan of the Rockets, but you don't know the roster. You might name one or two players, right? But if you're an average, everyday NBA fan growing up in the 90s, you knew the players of the Knicks. You knew the main components of the Knicks. And I'll say this to you, Dave, in the vein of everything we've been talking about with the expectation of the Knicks, I feel like when I mention that team and I think about that Knicks team that I grew up seeing, how did that team not win multiple titles? I feel like if they were today's NBA and people were looking at the makeup of them and what they were capable of, and we put them up to the Knicks that are on the roster right now, I believe in any era that people are probably stunned that the New York Knicks team of the 90s was not out there winning championships.
Well, they're one of a number of teams that Michael Jordan prevented from ever reaching the promised land. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You look at like the great teams and the great players, from Ewing to Barkley to, Karl Malone, Stockton and all that. All those guys, you think they had to win a championship somewhere. And the reason they didn't was they had, misfortune of playing at the same time Jordan did. And I think in today's NBA, like this is going to be the eighth different champion in 8 years. So I think in today's NBA, with the amount of talent that there is spread around the league, and with the cap management issues and all that kind of thing, I think had that structure been in place during the 90s and during the Ewing Starks, that era of Knicks teams, they probably there's a pretty good likelihood that they would have won a championship in there somewhere, just like there's a pretty good likelihood that you weren't going to see the Bulls win six. um, because I think just the game, the business of the game has changed so much today that I think more teams than ever um, can get to that championship level where they can compete, and especially like smaller market teams can get to that level. All right. I mean, we went through a period of time in the NBA where it was like, you know, the Celtics and the Lakers, and then the Bulls got involved, and then the Pistons. Like if you weren't in a major market, you had no shot. So I think today there's much more parity across the league. So some of those great Knicks teams of the past, I think, would have had a little bit different path to a championship. Had the game, had the business side of the game been what it is today.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw this because I know you're a LeBron fan more than me. So Jordan prevented some of the greatest players to ever play the game, top 50 NBA all time, from ever winning a title. The Ewings, the Stocktons, the Malones, and so on and so forth. LeBron has not done the same thing. So I know that you definitely have respect for LeBron. I have respect for LeBron, but we think of some things about him differently. In the conversation of who's the best, if Michael Jordan kept all of these Hall of Famers from winning championships, and LeBron has not done that, really wasn't even a factor in the playoffs this year as he's coming toward the tail end of his career, where Jordan, continued to just have heroics. And even when he struggled coming back as a Wizard, still had moments where he trended upward again and maybe probably surprised a lot of people. Do you think that in the conversation, Jordan versus LeBron, that because of the overwhelming number of Hall of Famers Jordan never let get to a title, does that lean the conversation more toward Jordan?
I mean, that's a check mark in Jordan's column. I think every year that goes by leans the conversation more to LeBron because he's stayed at or near the top of his game for such an extended period of time. Um, so I think that, and he's in the era where, like we just talked about, you don't see teams, because of the business of the game. Like if the business of the game was during the Jordan era, the way it is today, I don't think you're seeing Jordan and the Bulls win 6 titles like that. Keeping those teams together. They ran into it right near the end. They ran into it a little bit with Pippen, you know, where he could have got paid. Like in today's era, he might have got paid or been a top dog somewhere, or the Bulls would have had to make some decisions and not be able to retain some of the complementary guys around them, the Kerrs, the Wenningtons, the Bill Cartwright, Horace Grant, those Stacey King, who just passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Those kind of guys, like the supporting cast, it would have been more difficult for the Bulls to kind of put that kind of thing together. Would they have been able to bring in a guy like Rodman when they did? So I think, Jordan certainly gets credit for the championships and for preventing those guys from winning. But you also have to look at it a little bit in the context of, what was going on in the game at that time.
Yeah.
And it's a different landscape, like through most of LeBron's career.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting conversation because I would argue too that like half of the NBA was championship caliber at that time of Jordan as well. What he had to go through, and that he didn't buy them and bring them over, that he played against them, many of them, and consistently. I mean, there were guys that just never went away seemingly when we talk about the Sonics and the Pacers and the Knicks and the Rockets and the Jazz and so on and so the Hornets to an extent. And so, I mean, there was a lot to be said about yesterday's NBA, and I miss it. Like, I'm enjoying this now, but I do miss yesterday's NBA. I absolutely do. I think 90s NBA, there was something like at the end of the 90s going into the 2000s where there was this shift and it lost people. And I'm hoping that they're coming back now. But I just feel like we were spoiled back then. But I think the Knicks are bringing some people back because, again, when a New York team is in a championship, I feel like more people pay attention. And, when the New Yorks and the LAs, it's just reality, Dave. I mean, I think when the New York Knicks or the Boston Celtics or the Los Angeles Lakers, when they're playing for a title, I think more people pay attention. When it's Celtics Lakers, years ago, we got Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen and the crew, Paul Pierce fighting for something, and can the Celtics do it again? And who's going to have more championships between the two of them duking it out? I honestly believe that Celtics Lakers bring in non-NBA fans or NBA fans that stopped being NBA fans. And I think it's the same thing with the Knicks. I think there's been long sleeping Knicks fans that are like Clifford the Big Red Dog. Like they're there, they're present, but they were going night-night for a lot of decades, and now I think that they're awake now. There's probably people in that arena last night that have maybe not paid attention to this team for a long time, but here we are. And I think the Knicks are one of those franchises across all sports that when they make it, they bring people in that wouldn't have been there for other teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a ratings bonanza for the NBA for sure. The viewership has been better than it's been in years and years and years this year, but it was trending up anyway. Like the regular season was up significantly this year. So I think like contrary to what the NBA haters think, I think the interest in the popularity league is on the upswing. But the Knicks have certainly been a boost to that. You look at the ratings that Game 3 got, and I don't remember how many years back there hasn't been an NBA game or a World Series game that's gotten the viewership. So, and I'm sure last night would be even higher. And if this thing were to extend to 6 or 7 games, like you're not going to get NFL level ratings, but you're going to get ratings that you're not going to see for any other sport, in the country. And I think it's true. I mean, I think um, when you have like kind of the iconic franchises, the Knicks, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Warriors, because of Curry and their dominance, kind of, I think they capture more attention than the norm. Same thing with, like when the Dodgers are in the World Series or the Yankees are in the World Series.
Yeah.
It's good for the TV ratings and good for business. But at the same time, I think it's good for the health of the sport when you can have teams like the Spurs and the Thunder, the Indiana Pacers, a year ago getting to the finals. I think when everybody, if you have good, astute decision making in the front office and put your pieces together,
Yeah.
I think it's healthy for the sport that you can compete. That you have the opportunity to grow a franchise from rock bottom where the Thunder and the Spurs were a few years ago to where they're competing for a championship. Versus like the baseball model where it seems like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Red Sox and the Mets, like they can afford to, and the Phillies, they can afford to spend and make mistakes and overcome it versus, like the Royals or the Rockies. The pathway for those teams to become relevant is a lot narrower.
Yeah, and I mean 100%. And I think the enigma are the Mets, right? Because they're spending crazy money, almost the amount of the Dodgers, but nowhere close to what the Dodgers are doing right now. Dave, you and I've talked about this before, and it was on my mind last night going into the game. It was on my mind throughout the game. There is I said it before the game started when I was at my event with Liverpool Baseball, talking with my dad at Avicoli's. I said, there is a stark difference coming out of game 4 of 2-2 versus 3-1. It's either the series is now reset and we got the best of 3 to figure this thing out, or you got a team with 3 chances to take home the title. The Knicks right now have 3 opportunities to close it out where it could have been 0-0. 2-2 puts you in a different world. It's the point of a best of 7 series that we always come to in any sport where you say to yourself, this region coming out of 4, going into game 5, that moment of 2-2, 3-1 is night and day. It's not the same in any other part of the series than it is right there. So bring me into where we're at right now. A 1-point differential gave the Knicks now 3 opportunities to win a title when it could have been a total reset going to San Antonio.
Yeah, I think it's true in a general sense, exactly what you said. If it goes to 2-2 and now Spurs have 2 out of 3 at home, the pendulum shifts and you think San Antonio's in the driver's seat. Versus like if you go down 3-1 anytime, it's an uphill climb, right? You don't win in the NBA you don't win in many sports, but you especially don't win in the NBA down 3-1 very often. Um, Despite the fact that my Sixers did that to the Celtics, so that was good. But
Yeah.
and it's compounded in this case by the way the Spurs lost last night. Like to be up 29 in the second half and like for all the great plays the Knicks made, and Knicks deserve full credit for sticking with it and persevering and hitting shots and making plays. Because at the end of the day, it's about making shots, right?
Yeah.
But for all the credit the Knicks get, you don't make a comeback that way unless you get some help from the team blowing the lead. And the Spurs gave the Knicks plenty of help as far as giving them a window to make that comeback. So losing the game the way they did last night, being down 3-1 is bad enough, and then to lose the game the way they did last night, I think the Spurs are in a really, really bad position right now. Like, they may find a way to win game 5, but like right now, if you held a gun in my head, I think the Knicks closing it out in the next game, especially if the Spurs have started well every game. If the Knicks start well in game 5, I can almost see it becoming one of those things where like the Knicks really put it on them in game 5. Um, as a basketball fan, I hope not, because I'd like to see this thing go 6 or 7 games. But the way it ended last night, especially with a young team like the Spurs, I can see it really going south. And that's the kind of loss that it could impact a franchise way beyond this series too. That could be the kind of thing where, there's a hangover effect of this, like bleeding into next season and beyond if they're not careful.
Yeah, and I think a guy that's come up huge for them late in games, and obviously at the free throw line, is Castle, and I give credit to the Spurs, and I give credit to him for that specifically, but I wonder if they don't win and it ends the way, I mean, looking at how things have been going, and if it's 4-1 or 4-2, I predicted game 6 in the Garden would be the last game and the Knicks would hoist the trophy, but I wonder if a guy like Castle wants to go elsewhere after something like this. And he's just the guy that I've circled right now, going off of what you just said. That was the face that came to mind. But I do want to go to the other side, and I want to give credit where credit is due because, of course, I was thinking this last night. OG Anunoby, the only Knick that scored more than him, Jalen Brunson, and only 3 points. Brunson had 36 points in 44 minutes. OG Anunoby had 33 and 41, 10 of 15 from the field, 7 of 9 from three-point range, 6 of 6 at the charity stripe. And this will remind you all that you always have to guard the inbound, man. Bring me into OG Anunoby, which looks like the cover of a Sports Illustrated Champion Edition magazine. The jump with everybody going toward it, his arm outstretched, tipping the ball, perfect angle, perfect moment, and nobody got higher than he did to put that ball in. And the hug from Karl Anthony Towns, where you could tell he's like, God bless you, man. I love you. So bring me into that moment where a Toronto Raptor, and I'm going to keep saying it, did something fantastically amazing. OG Anunoby, who we talked about going into the series, was one of those potential X factors.
Yeah, well, I think you can even back it up a little bit before that. He hit the huge corner three. And then, Fox was colossally stupid when they had Wemby had the block on Brunson. Fox comes out of the pack. No need to go to the basket there, but he did. And OG, to his credit, got the chase down block, which gave the Knicks an opportunity to win the game.
Yeah.
And then on the final play, and again, we talk about like, the Spurs have to do some things to help them in that situation. I didn't like the Spurs defensive scheme right from the jump on, and I mean he went completely unchecked. And meanwhile, you got Wembanyama, who's your best rim protector, your best rebounder, out chasing Brunson at 40 feet. Like I'm all for doubling Brunson, but not with Wemby in that situation. But OG, he has put himself, in my opinion. Like I think if the series ends, we'll see how the next game or next couple of games, whatever it takes, go. The series ends, they'll probably give Brunson the MVP just because of his sheer point numbers, and he was a little more efficient last night. But the games, it was Towns in the first 2 games, and it was OG last night in the 3 Knicks wins that really have been the difference makers in the series. And Towns, I gotta speak to him just for a second too, because nobody talked about this. if you look at the last play after OG's tipping, Castle is wide open for a dunk
Yeah.
to win the game, and
Yeah.
Towns gets a piece of the inbounds pass. Like if he doesn't get a deflection on that, the Spurs get a dunk at the buzzer and still go home with the win. So, but I mean, OG, I think, like the last couple of games, he has really asserted himself more for the Knicks. And that, to me, like if they win it, it's a three-horse race for MVP between him, Towns, and Brunson.
It is beyond me how Castle is ever left open, especially toward the end of the game. The sports hit list, I want to give credit to the gentleman over there. I've been on their show, they've been on mine. They put the graphic up. Game 1, the Spurs up 14, lost. Game 2 up 12, lost. Game 4 up 29, lost. So they've been up by double digits in all of their 3 losses in this series. And so could it speak to youth? Could it speak to, just, yeah, and Dave nodding yes, this is a young team versus, and again, I'm going to go to the Nova Knicks and say, I know it was college, but they figured out how to win together a national championship. They're trying to win another national championship. And there's something to be said about fighting through the gauntlet and knowing what it feels like and having an experience of winning a title at any level. So with that being said, Mr. Pasiak, this conversation went way too fast, and we're going to have another one very soon. But we got another game. It's coming up here, folks. For those of you that want to know when you can watch and where you can watch Game 5, let's see how much the tickets are. I'm wondering how many New Yorkers are going to San Antonio now because the ticket price has probably gone up. The next game is Saturday, June 13th. That is Game 5, and the ticket prices went down, actually, $100. So tickets are now $1,620 for your cheapest ticket, and the Knicks will face off against the Spurs, up 3-1 with an opportunity to end the series in Texas this Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC, June 13th. Mr. Pasiak, as always, I appreciate you. Any final word here as we get set for Game 5 over the weekend?
Yeah, cheaper for a Knick fan to buy a ticket and go to the games in San Antonio than it is to buy a game or go to a game at the Garden these days. But yeah, I mean, like I said, as a basketball fan, I'd like to see this series extend. But I got a feeling we could be crowning the Knicks as champs on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm sticking with my prediction of Knicks in 6. I want to see them do it in the Garden, but I also know that Knicks fans just want to end this thing. But I will agree with Dave. It is cheaper to buy a ticket and fly to San Antonio than it is to Uber down the road from your house and go to a Knicks game. So for those of you that live in New York City and in the borough area, so I would actually tell you to fly to San Antonio as opposed to buy a Game 6 ticket, which last time I checked, the lowest ticket was $11,000. So Dave, as always, I appreciate you, appreciate your time, and appreciate you being a part of this incredible road as you and I talk about the largest comeback in NBA Finals history, down 29 with a 1-point victory and the tip in from OG Anunoby, who is trying to be a part of not one, but now 2 NBA franchises to win a title. Thanks for your time, Dave.
Thanks, Dan. We'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. That come from Dave Pasiak one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I couldn't help but get Dave back on this week because of everything going on in this series. And so we are going to go right to, we took one step aside here on the show, one fast break, and we're going to not take another step aside. We're going to go right into our next conversation. So we went from the field, the baseball field, to the basketball court, and now we're going back to the field, but it's a different field. We're going to the football field, and it is my honor and my privilege here inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios to keep this conversation rocking and rolling here. I was so excited. Now listen, I love what I do and I do what I love, and every morning I wake up, it's a blessing and an opportunity to do something special and make history. But this morning was just even more so to the nth degree, because I get to talk about honoring a kid in Central and Upstate New York who's fighting for a state title with a school that I've done shows with for about 9 years now. Then I got to talk about the New York Knicks having the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history. And now I get to speak with Nick Carparelli here of the Coca-Cola Bowl season, who's the executive director, who we've only had one other conversation, but Nick, I'm not saying this because you're on screen with me now. You're one of my most favorite people to talk to because you're willing to go anywhere, discuss anything, and I feel like at the basis of it all, you're just a giant sports fan, and you can that kind of like flows through the conversation. So I will tell you, Nick, it's always good to talk with you, and I'm happy we get to do it today.
Thanks, Dan, for having me on. Thanks for that introduction. I don't know too many people where I'm the highlight of their day when they talk to. So, I mean, how could I have a bad day now, Dan? Thanks.
Well, listen, I enjoy it because I feel like you embody it. I feel like the spirit and the essence of just being a sports lover. I think that comes through you. Be it us talking about the old Big East or speaking about bowl season. I saw your face when I was talking about the Knicks. I mean, you got a lot of connection, obviously, to the state of New York. So I'm going to ask you this before we talk about football. I've said that the non-NBA, non-Knick fans are still just engulfed in the moment, and not saying they're bandwagon jumpers, but they're riding a high right now, even if it's not their team, because that was one of the greatest moments in sports history. What are your thoughts having the connections you have to the Big East and the Garden in New York and seeing the Knicks have the largest deficit, overcoming it, and winning in a tip-in fashion from a guy that was unguarded in the inbound pass? Unreal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think you have to be a Knicks fan per se or even a basketball fan. You just have to be a sports fan to appreciate last night. It's one of those moments you just look at, you watch, you go, wow. I'm not a guy who gives up easily when I'm rooting for a team. I was at the Super Bowl when the Patriots were down 28-3, and I strayed from my New York roots a little bit with the Patriots because I work for Coach Belichick there and I have a Super Bowl ring, so I think I get a pass on that one. But I was at that game, and my son at halftime's like, they're coming back. That I said, I agree with you. And I kind of felt that in this game. Especially when they got it to 17, 15 points, I think but at the start of the fourth quarter. All right, we cut it in half. That's the plan. That's how you do it. And it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I hate to say that I felt it had a better than average chance of happening, but I not that I can predict the future, but I felt like that could happen last night. I really did.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of it with Syracuse. I was in Chicago during the NCAA tournament the last time that Syracuse made it to the Final Four in 2016. And I was there for the down 16 to Virginia and people thinking it was over. And I remember I looked down at my notebook and I said to myself, it ain't over till it's over. Like the fat lady didn't sing yet. And here we go in that moment, and it happened. And I just remember how I felt, how I just, for whatever reason, something inside of me was like, this isn't done until it's done. And
That's right.
they won. And so, I mean, I love these moments in sports, and you get to have so many of them because in
And
bowl season,
especially, Dan,
yeah, go ahead.
not to interrupt you, especially in Madison Square Garden, right?
Yeah.
Big moments that happen in big places. Nothing's bigger than New York City. I love New York City. I'm a New York guy, even though I never lived there. And then you talk about all the games I've been to at the Garden through the Big East tournament this past year. Dan, I worked for the Big East for 12 years. So obviously, running that tournament to some extent for 12 years. And then the 13 years since I've been there, I haven't missed one. So last year was my 25th consecutive Big East tournament that I've witnessed. And it's a special building. So for that game to happen there, it just, magnifies it even more.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I was talking about. I mean, the Mecca is the Mecca, and I've been there for Big East tournaments, Big East Media Day. And I mean, you go in there for Big East Media Day, there's nobody, there's no crowd. They have brought the giant, the giant speaker video board has come down
Yeah.
and you can touch it. And so here it is, like on the court, and then they have the teams around it. And even in that, like I'm walking around there that morning saying to myself, I'm in the Garden. Like this is what I get to do today. And I'm going to
Just
tell
makes
you,
you feel good being in the building.
yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you this, Nick, the girl I was dating at the time, I knew she could never be my wife, and I'm going to tell you why. I was like so excited at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning to be like, you don't understand. If I don't even do anything here today, I'm just happy to be here. And she was like, do you want sushi for dinner? And I was like, I don't think this is going to work. So, I mean, the garden is, and I remember it had been like 9 years since I had been to the Big East tournament. And I went to the tournament, and I remember I walked to my seat. I sat down in my media seat, which I cannot thank John Paquette for the way he's treated me over the years enough, and just appreciate him so, so very much. And I know that he probably never would allow me to give him the credit, but I always try to. And I sat in my seat and I looked up, and you just see the wooden paneling that's in a circle. And I looked up breathless, took a moment, and I said, there is literally no place like this. And so to your point, anything that happens in the garden is like better. The concert's better. When Walking Dead was there during New York Comic-Con, that was bigger and better. The NFL draft, I went to MSG when it was there. That was better. I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to go to a draft again because I went to the draft at Madison Square Garden. So, I mean, the Mecca is the Mecca, Nick, and you working with the Big East for so long, and like you said, continuing to go to the Big East tournament, I don't even think it matters who wins. It's just the fact that you're sitting in the garden.
That's right. There's three buildings that, for me anyways, you kind of you feel something when you walk in there. And like you said, it doesn't even have to be have a crowd in there. It's Madison Square Garden, it's Yankee Stadium, and it's the Rose Bowl. For me, you feel something. It's an emotional experience when you walk in the building, and the garden is awesome.
Is there any way in the expansion of bowl season, since we have 40 plus opportunities, that we could somehow sneak a field into the garden? Do you think?
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I got to talk to my friends at the Pinstripe Bowl. Maybe they could have some kind of skills competition leading into it. I don't know.
But I mean, I do want to speak to that vein of it. Like you said, Yankee Stadium, the Rose Bowl, MSG, for you personally, are like, you walk in there, doesn't matter if there's a crowd, doesn't matter what's going on. There could be a bunch of janitors cleaning up the place, and you're like, this is the best janitor crew in the world and my best experience in my life. I haven't been to the Rose Bowl yet, but I've been to the other two.
Wow.
So you have the Pinstripe Bowl. That's a more recent bowl. It's a younger bowl. And I was there at the first one, and I've been there for, every time that Syracuse has been a part of it. But I was there when they ushered it in, and at the time it was the new era before it was the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. How important was it to have that? When you're looking at bowls and you're assessing this, because you and I have never really gone behind the curtain in this respect, when a company, a sponsor, an area, a town, a city, when they're trying to assemble a bowl game, how do they go about it? Bring me into the dominoes that have to fall when someone is when they're coming into bowl season and saying, Nick, we would like to sponsor a bowl. We want to put it here at this arena or this stadium. We want it to be at this time in this city. Like, bring me into, how does somebody sell you on it? What do they need to have as the pillars to have a bowl? Because obviously Yankee Stadium didn't have one a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. I'll speak to that in general, but then I'd love to tell you the Pinstripe Bowl story,
Yeah.
Specifically after. But I've been saying this a lot lately, that the bowl system is and always has been a market-driven system. For years, people would say, "Is there enough bowl games? Is there too many bowl games?" Right? And it's always been a function place of the market. For up until 2000, the how many bowl games should there be? Well, enough bowl games to fit every last 6 and 16, because there's no way any team would not go to a bowl game if they could, right? But then the marketplace has changed with NIL and the transfer portal and guys getting paid, and there's valid reasons why you might not be able to go to a bowl. So the whole team opt-out thing has come about, which I hate. Teams aren't opting out. It's not that they don't want to go to a bowl game, just sometimes there's circumstances. So maybe there's too many now, and the market will adjust. And to that point, to your question, no one's telling anybody they have to host a bowl game, any community, any stadium, any organization. No one's telling any teams they have to go, right? The market dictates, when what the number is and what the match is. So really, to have a bowl game in today's day and age, you have to have a venue, a title sponsor, a TV partner, and two teams, two conferences that are willing to commit one of their bowl eligible teams to your game. Now, it's a little bit of a chicken or the egg, right? If you and I, Dan, wanted to start a new game at the JMA Wireless Dome, we could go to two conferences and say, hey, would you like to play in Syracuse in December? And we all know we'd have our work cut out for us there, and for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But the first question would be, okay, well, how much are you going to pay us, and where's it going to be televised? Well, we don't know yet. Okay. So then you go to a TV partner and how much you're willing to pay to televise our game. You go to a title sponsor. Okay, would you like to sponsor this game? And they're like, well, we don't know who you're going to have in the game. We'll get back to you on that, right? So it's a little bit of a chicken or the egg thing, but eventually it comes together, and a lot of bowls start as a smaller bowl, and then they grow, and then they may attract better teams, higher level teams from a given conference, maybe even teams from a Power Four when they started out as a group of six. So there's no exact playbook, but there's pieces that have to be put in place, and it's a process for sure.
And then
I mean,
go ahead. I was going to say, to the vein of the Pinstripe Bowl, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that one, I mean, you talk about, like, I've been so blessed, Dan. Like, I've had so many cool jobs working for great organizations, great people, great mentors, and probably one of my coolest professional projects, if you will, was creating the Pinstripe Bowl. I say this humbly because it takes a lot of people to do anything, but sometimes there's a trigger person, or, all right, this isn't happening without this person. I can honestly say, if it wasn't for me, there would not be a Pinstripe Bowl. I had the idea back in the old Big East football days where we were really good and underrated, underappreciated. And when you think about the bowl business, it's about traveling large groups of fan bases to the destinations. Big East was always at a disadvantage. We were always the visiting team, not officially, but we were in effect the visiting team in these bowl games because, of course, we want to go to Florida. All right, but if we're playing a Southern team, well, their fans just drive there, or it's a short flight. Our fans had to go along to stuff. Now we always worked against Syracuse a little bit because it's hard for our fans to, the money and to get there. So being a big Yankee fan, and then when they were building the new stadium, I said, it'd be pretty cool, to have a bowl game in New York. It could be a home, quote, home bowl game for our Big East fans. Who doesn't want to play in Yankee Stadium? So I approached the Yankees. I had to convince them a little bit. I had to go out. I played the role of bowl organizer. I helped them, figure out. It was like I gave them a bowl 101 class, if you will. The Yankees staff: how do you run a bowl game? How do you run bowl week? What events do you have for the student athletes? I recruited the Big 12 at the time to be our opponent. If you remember, it was Syracuse, Kansas State in the first year of the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah.
And it kicked off in 2010, and lo and behold, Syracuse was the first team in the Pinstripe Bowl. Yankees being far and away my favorite team, my earliest fandom was as the Yankees. So that was kind of a cool moment for me, for my sports world coming together, my fan world, my profession, Big East, Syracuse, Yankees, Pinstripe Bowl. It was pretty cool. And now they make a good chunk of money on one day in December when they would otherwise be closed. So they treat me pretty good. I have a really good relationship with the Yankees to this day.
Well, and for you, like you said, there would not be a Pinstripe Bowl without you. Like, this was your idea. This is what you wanted to do. You said it took some convincing. What was it that you had to do? Bring me through, like, kind of your timeline of the creation of this. What were the things that you were working on specifically, personally, to say, this is a dream of mine, it's a hope of mine, but I want to bring it into reality? What were those things that you were doing, and how did you do the convincing with the Yankees?
Well, I had to start, working. I was an employee of the Big East at the time. So starting with our head football coaches and athletic directors, hey, I have this idea. Before I pursue it, do we want to play a game in Yankee Stadium? That was the easiest part. Of course they did. Then it was approaching the Yankees. Hey, how about this? And I had some talks with, it was Mark Holtzman, who still runs the Pinstripe Bowl, John Mosley, and then, of course, Randy Levine, the president of the Yankees. They were starting to fish around. They wanted to host some regular season games in the month of November, which they've done. They've had Notre Dame Army, and they've had the Cortica Jug, and they've had Lehigh Lafayette, some pretty cool games. And I pitched them on it, and they weren't real weren't sold right off. They didn't know how it worked. You know, they're baseball guys. Um, I told them I had to assure them that I would be their consultant, unpaid. I'll coach them through it. I've done this before. Um, and they said, well, let's see, who would we play? So then I had to go fishing around for conferences. And at the time, the Big 12 needed another bowl game in their rotation. They loved the idea of coming to New York City. And so I got them on board, and it just kind of steamrolled from there.
You mentioned Randy Levine. I had the opportunity to speak with him at the Pinstripe Bowl, the president of the New York Yankees. Bring me into that relationship, because you're a Big East, Big East connection, love the Big East, respect the Big East, worked within the Big East. And then like you stated, it's Yankee Stadium, the way you feel when you're there, the Yankees and what they bring to the table. The conversations with Randy Levine and the relationship that you have with him, I'd love to go deeper into that, as it was one of the greatest honors of my life to be sitting in the front row, get to interview him in a press conference, and then get in touch with my family and go, guess who I just talked to? Because my family has Yankee blood in there. And so I'd love to get your connection to Randy.
Yeah, I really like Randy. It's you know, again, going back to my career, I was very fortunate to work with very high level coaches, administrators, owners, and I think you learn, if you're going to be successful, you got to develop very quickly a feel for the personality you're around, and how to interact with them, and you're not gonna talk to Randy Levine the same way you talk to your buddies from high school, right? So you figure that out, and this is something I try to teach when I speak to sports management classes, and I do that a lot at the Fall College of Sport up at Syracuse. I'm on the board of advisors, as you probably know, and I love that. I love speaking to classes about some sports management topic, but then we always end up diving into career paths and whatnot. And with Randy, he's no BS, right to the point. If you happen to come across him, you exchange pleasantries. That's fine. If you have a point to make it quick. Because whether he's too busy or whether his attention just isn't that long in that moment, he's high energy. He's got a lot of George Steinbrenner in him. I didn't know George Steinbrenner very well, but George hired him. George loved him, and I honestly believe, if Randy Levine looks up to anybody in this world, past or present, it's George Steinbrenner, and I think he tries to operate like he thinks George would have in certain situations, even though George is gone.
No, and I think, and Steinbrenner, listen, we talk about MSG and what they are and what they bring to it, and how it commands people in that aren't even Knick fans. I think, Steinbrenner, I mean, for goodness sakes, he had a place on Seinfeld. That always going
Well,
into.
I miss him, Dan. Sometimes, I get, I have conversations with my son, like how many times would Brian Cashman have been fired in the last 20 years if George Steinbrenner was still alive, right? And I'm not saying that's good or bad or right or wrong, and there were so many times growing up where I loved George Steinbrenner that I couldn't stand him, and I wasn't going to be a Yankee fan anymore. When he fired Buck Showalter and brought in Joe Torre, I'm like, that's it, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. And then of course, you change that tune pretty quick. But it certainly was never a dull moment with George Steinbrenner.
No, and I think about, and I really do. I so many times in recent history, it's what would George have done? And with the Aaron Judge, I said he would have never let that season go, because I said the longer the season goes and the better the Judge plays, the more zeros get added to that check. So I was like, Steinbrenner would have done this 3 months before the season. You're doing it in the postseason. Yeah. So, yep. There's moments like that where it's what would Steinbrenner do, and I think it would have been vastly different than some of the things that we have seen, for sure. Looking at, so I mean, obviously having the Pinstripe Bowl in the same kind of essence of it about the Big East and having Northeast teams feel like the home team. Do you get a sense of that with the Fenway Bowl in Boston, and just what you can say to that respect? Because here we are with the, Big Green Monster and Yankee Stadium that are both a part of bowl season. Does the Fenway Bowl, in the same kind of parallel, give you that and help teams in the Northeast feel like they have a home?
I think it could, Dan. I don't think it has yet. and I think for a couple reasons. I think certainly the teams that have played in the Fenway Bowl have an amazing experience, and they walk away saying, "Wow, that's pretty cool. That's a lifelong memory that I'll have forever," which is really the essence of bowl season. Before we get into that, but I think part of it is Pinstripe Bowl's had a little bit of a head start. They've been around for a little bit longer. I think they've poured a lot more resources into the game than the Fenway Bowl may have so far. They've had Power Four versus Power Four every year, right, which is a big deal. And I think, and I love Boston. I don't love Boston teams per se, but I love the city of Boston. It's not New York. They don't make movies about Boston over the holidays like they do in New York City. You know what I mean? You bring two college football teams into New York City for 4 days,
Yeah.
and they walk around, and the vast majority of the players on the rosters have never been there. So they're there over the holidays. They see the tree, and they go to the 9/11 memorial. The captains ring the stock exchange bell, and just everything about New York City that I don't think you can do what the Pinstripe Bowl does anywhere else.
Yeah, there's something very special about it. And like I said, I've experienced it, and I'm very happy that I can say that I went to the first, and my dad was there as well. So having my dad there with me, 12 degrees outside, insane. But to the bowl season and to assembling this schedule, there are 39, if we include the New Year's Six, there are 39 bowl games for 2026-27 that are currently scheduled. And then we have the Arizona Bowl and the Holiday Bowl to be determined. So that's 41 opportunities if we don't include the national championship. So when we're strictly talking about bowl games for the postseason, we have 39 plus the 2 with the TBDs here. I'm going to go back to something you said before, the question of, is there enough? Are there too many? As we go into 2026-27, how do you view the postseason and the amount of bowls that we have currently, including the New Year's Six?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I said earlier, we got to this many bowl games because the market demanded that, right? We actually, within the last 10 years, maybe we've had 83 bowl eligible teams for 82 spots, and there was a 6-6 team that couldn't go. And you talk to that coach in that program, they're devastated, right? And a lot of times they're programs that are growing programs, first year head coach, young roster, um, maybe haven't been to a bowl game in a long time. It's a big deal. And so, the market has dictated that we have the number of bowl games we have. But like I said, the market and everything else in college athletics has changed so drastically and so quickly,
Yeah.
that there are situations that cause teams to say, we can't go. Iowa State, their head coach leaves, goes to Penn State, brings his quarterback and half his roster. They couldn't have fielded a team. All right. So we get that, right?
Yeah.
The media wants to say, well, nobody wants to go to bowl games anymore. Well, that's not the conclusion to that. There were two other teams that couldn't go. So 82 teams went to bowl games, 3 didn't. That's not an indictment on the system. That's an indictment. I should say it's not an indictment on bowl games. It's an indictment on the college athletics system right now, right? The transfer portal. We fixed the player opt-out issue a little bit by moving the portal to January 1st. You're always going to have guys that are going to be first round draft picks not wanting to get injured. But in terms of guys transferring, guys play now. Schools have gotten smarter about how they pay their players, right? There's a final payment that you don't get in your direct revenue share or your NIL that you don't get until after the bowl game. Moving the transfer portal to January 1st. Result of that, even high level players. Last 2 years, the top 10 Heisman Trophy vote getters, each of the last 2 years, 20 of them total, all but one played in bowl games. Now one, his team didn't play. So that's the reason he didn't play. So, we're undergoing a lot of change. The CFP is deciding how many teams they want in the CFP. The bowl system's going to adjust. And I think after this year, you'll see a different number of bowl games. I can't tell you how many bowl games there will be, but it'll be the right amount of games for the system to accommodate all the teams that want a great postseason opportunity.
So when we look at this and we say 39 that are scheduled, we take the national championship and we Well, I mean, obviously there's a path to that, so let's not go. So the 39 plus the two that haven't been scheduled yet, 41. So that's 82 teams. So
Yeah,
let's
I'm
say
expecting 82 teams will participate in the postseason this year, including the playoffs. Yep.
and I do want to the ones that haven't been scheduled yet. When you release the schedule, what can you say about the Arizona Bowl and the Holiday Bowl? Why are they kind of sitting in the kind of region of we're here, but we don't have our date and our time set? Why were those two? Because I know when the graphic came out, we had, from the
Yeah.
beginning all the way through. Why are those kind of floating right now?
Yeah, so ideally you'd wait till every bowl game was set with all their details, but you get to a point and say, okay, we need to get the schedule out. We'll list these games as TBD. They will happen. I can assure you that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even been put on the list. It could be they haven't finalized their deal with their television partner. It could be they haven't finalized their available time slot with TV or with their venue, or maybe they have a title sponsor announcement coming up soon. That wasn't the case with either one, but it could be in the future. So they just weren't all buttoned up in every last detail. They certainly didn't want to be excluded from the announcement, so they're listed there, but the final details will be forthcoming for those two games.
So, with the expectation of 82 teams that are going to compete in the upcoming 2026-27 bowl season, in the future, after this year, for argument's sake, if the college football playoff expands to 24, which is what I'm thinking, and I've already built up a format that I think makes sense for this to not only protect the FBS and protect the 10 conferences, but and to give validity to the conferences and give some type of symmetry amongst them. And then you can seed however you want to seed, but to at least have conference champions matter, and then have 14 at large, which will double the at large pool. And I went through it last year and what that would have looked like. And honestly, when I got to the last two or three teams, I'm like, do we even need those teams? So I think 24 is more than enough. But if the CFP expands to 24 and we currently have 82 teams competing in bowl season with 41 bowl games and 6 of those within the college football playoff, so 35 outside of it, if we have 35 that are not a path to the college football playoff national champion, I know you said you don't know exactly how it will be, but do you anticipate that we'll still have 82 teams or around that number somehow? Like if 24 go in and we have a first round, second round, and then they continue with the 6 bowls that are within the college football playoff, do you still see a world of, okay, 24 are here, but we're still going to find our way to that 82 number or close to it outside of that when the bowl system figures itself out?
Yep. Yeah, good question. So for strictly from a math perspective, which is where we're starting this conversation, I like to look at it this way. There's, 82 teams that were in the postseason last year. If 24 were to go to the playoff, that leaves 58, right?
Yeah.
So that's more than double the number of teams that might be in this new playoff that are in some other form of postseason. So first of all, that says there's still a really big need for the rest of the bowl system to accommodate deserving teams, right? And your definition of a successful season might be different depending on your program, but there's a lot of definitions for that.
Yeah.
Will we need a spot for every last 6-6 team, or even some teams with better records than that maybe had hopes of being in the playoff? You may see a desire, the marketplace say, you know what, 82 minus 24 is 58. The system doesn't need 58 slots. Maybe it needs 50. I'm making that up. That would mean 25 bowl games after the CFP. Still a very healthy bowl system, right? I may be wrong. Maybe every last team 58. So we need 29 bowl games outside the CFP, the 6 CFP bowls, and then the on-campus games. So the market will dictate that. So part of my job is I'm in constant communication with the 10 conference offices, the Power 4, the Group of 6. How many bowl game opportunities do you want after the CFP, right? Where do you want to play? Who do you want to play in terms of an opponent in those bowl games, right? We're not opting out anymore, right? You tell me how many opportunities you want. If your conference says, you know what, we don't want a bowl opportunity for every last bowl eligible team because there's going to be a couple every year that don't go. Well, I say, okay, market-driven system. You decide that, and you sign contracts with the appropriate number of bowl games.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't want to go to a destination, so I'm just gonna state the fact. There's no more bowl game in Detroit, right? Big Ten made a decision, a while ago. Their teams maybe they didn't want to go to Detroit, whatever. So I'd say to I said to the Big Ten, well, don't do a deal with Detroit. What do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so there'll be kind of a coming to Jesus with all 10 conferences, each of those conferences within their membership. Okay, here's what the playoff's going to be. Here's how many teams we expect to get in the playoff every year. Here's how many other opportunities we want. Here's where we want to play, and here's who we want to play. And then the system will go to work.
And how do you, as the executive director of the Coca-Cola Bowl season, how do you figure this out? So if we have, as it stands right now, 35 bowls outside of the college football playoff, if you're going to go from 35 to 29 for argument's sake, and you're going to take 6 away, how do you determine this? I know you said you speak to the conferences, but what if they say we don't want to go play at this game, or we don't value this, but this game has, a huge title? They call you up and they say, listen, this is how much our sponsor's paying. This is what we're doing. This is the city we're in. Like, how do you have the difficult conversation as the executive director with your team to figure out which 6 bowl games won't be a part of the following year? Just for argument's sake of just naming 6,
Yeah. So fortunately, I don't have that job. No one does. Right. Again, you go back and it's, I keep saying it, but the market driven system, right? So no one's sitting here saying, okay, here's how many bowl games there's going to be. Here's who's going to, which city is going to have a bowl game, and here are the teams playing in it. Right. It has to be a marriage. It's kind of like when I was running sports marketing at Under Armour, right? And we were outfitting schools. There's no one out there saying, okay, here's how many schools Adidas is going to outfit, and here's how many schools Nike's going to outfit, and here's how many schools Under Armour's going to outfit, and here are the schools. And it's actually a very, very similar comparison, right? The market dictates that. There's a lot of factors that go into it. There's 2 sides to the partnership, right? So again, you go to the conferences. Who is that conference? What is their DNA? What is their geography? What's their appetite for postseason competition? Where do they want to play? A lot of them want to play in Florida. That's why they have the most bowl games, right? Yeah. Who do they want to play? Power 4 are wanting to play Power 4, right? There's been talk, and in my role, I'm a referee, I'm a consensus builder, I'm a facilitator, I'm making sure it works in the greater system. There's a notion that the Power 4 conferences get together and say, hey, after the CFP, let's identify 8 to 10 bowl locations that we all can agree we'd all like to play in. Yeah. And as a group, we partner with them so that if it's 8 bowls, it's 16 opportunities. If it's 10, it's 20 opportunities. Each of the Power 4 gets 4 or 5 slots. And when the season's over, you kind of have a second round of postseason placements, right? So you have a little bit of flexibility in which conference plays which conference. You match up geography, you match up rivalries. That would drive a lot of value. We hear a lot in college athletics that inventory drives value. That's why these conferences are getting bigger. That's why there's this talk of this Super League and negotiating a big television package collectively. If there was an 8 or 10 bowl system that could negotiate television collectively, sponsorships collectively, it'd be more valuable, it'd be more exciting, and all the bowls would get bigger payouts. So I don't spearhead that. The conferences have a desire to talk about that, so I facilitate those conversations. I give them what they need in terms of statistics and data, and I go back and forth. But I don't make any of those final decisions. But I know a good idea when I see it, Dan. So I think we can be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of things within that. Nick Carparelli here with us, the executive director of Coca-Cola Bowl season, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Are we living in a world where the P4 is letting you know we don't really want to play the group of? And are we seeing a divide of saying, hey, in order to make these bowl games matter, P4 versus P4, group of 6 versus group of 6, and then the college football playoff is doing its own thing over here. Are you seeing, because you just mentioned the Super League, and I've had a lot of conversation, and as I've told you before, a lot of predictions have come out of my mouth, and I don't want them to come true, but I feel like they are. So, and I say I don't want to because of what it's going to do to a lot of things, academics, to conferences, to sustainability. But, and when money is the root of it and money is the main focus, there's always going to be a day where the floor drops out. So when we look at where we're at now, are you getting the conversation leaning toward group of 6 versus group of 6, power 4 versus power 4? We're dividing up FBS, and we're kind of letting you know that this is how we want our bowl games to go in order for us to value them more, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't, again, that's not a decision I make. And as a fan, Dan, I would say I don't want that necessarily. I always felt, back in my Big East days, and are you a BCS conference or are you a non-BCS conference? Like I don't know what that means. Like people make these things up. Like I've never seen a Power Four logo. I looked for the Power Four website. It doesn't exist, Dan.
Right.
There was never a non-BCS logo. Although maybe some fan site might have created one for fun, but those things are made up, right? Now, to my point of a market-driven system, that's college athletics, right? It's bowl games, it's everything. You asked if we're trying to encourage P4 versus P4. That's what the P4 wants, and those aren't only behind closed doors conversations. They've been pretty outspoken about, we want to play each other in the Power Four. Some conferences have even put clauses in their conference scheduling. Hey, we're playing 8 conference games, 9 conference games, but you have to play 10 Power Four games total. Obviously, the Big Ten has not done that, and Indiana's been famous the last few years and been successful scheduling strictly non-Power Four or group of 6 opponents. I don't love that as a rule. Like, so for example, the CFP has room for group of 6, a group of 6 champion. I think that's healthy for the sport. I think as many communities, as many institutions, as many fans, as many alums of different institutions that could have an interest in college football, that's better for the value of the sport, right? You can really get into that argument when you talk about the NCAA basketball tournament, why it's important to keep those automatic bids. But with college football, when we talked about the rest of the bowl system, and if the Power Four were to get their wish and say, hey, here's these 8 or 10 bowls that we want to maximize matchups, I'm encouraging them to include a spot or spots for group of 6 teams if they accomplish a certain amount, a certain level, right? Look at the seasons that Navy and Army have had the last couple of years. Wouldn't it have been great to see if we have some next level system to see Navy playing in the Gator Bowl against somebody, right? They earned that. Yeah. It has value. TV would want that. They're a good quality opponent. I think there's room for group of 6 participation in high level bowl games. Let's earn your way in, but let's carve out the opportunity at the same time.
Yeah, and I think, Navy's proven it in the seasons that they've had, and Brian Newberry, the head coach, is a good friend, and seeing the fact that, they defeated Oklahoma, an SEC school here in recent history, and they've been invited to the White House multiple times because of their Commander-in-Chief Cup that they have won, and they're have a consecutive run of doing that currently right now. The Super League that you mentioned, for argument's sake, if it were the Big 12, the autonomy group, the A4, if it were the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, and the ACC, we're currently looking at there's 16 in the Big 12 and there's 16 in the SEC, so that gives us 32. And then there's 17 because no Notre Dame when it comes to football in the ACC, so then that's 49. And then we have the 18 of the Big 10, which brings us to 57. So 60 has been the number floated around. We're right about there. I have 2 thoughts, Nick. One that I had since 2021 began with, I think the SEC is going to break away. Then the Big 10 took 2 West Coast schools, and they took 2 more and almost killed the Pac-12 when the Big 12 saw the opportunity and went after almost all of the rest of it. So now, and the Pac fell out of the autonomy group because of all this. So now we see the SEC could form its own league. Now the Big 10 could go with them. If they went together, as of right now, they have 34. They have, heading toward 40 of that 60. So my question to you is, are we living in a world where the SEC and the Big 10, in your opinion, from reading the tea leaves, do you see that as more of a reality of they're just going to go together and try to pull a Clemson, Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame to go with them and really just say, like, here's our champion. We got the money. We're the conferences that are making the B billion. Nobody else is making the billion like us. Nobody's paying 70 plus million on average to their institutions like us. We're living in a world by ourselves. The ACC can't keep up. The Big 12 can't keep up in the autonomy group, and everybody else falls beyond that. So are you seeing a 4 breakaway of 60, or are you seeing SEC Big 10 breakaway? What do you think we're heading toward? Since you mentioned the Super League, and I've been predicting the essence of this since 2021.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think we need to give a lot of credit to former Syracuse Chancellor Severud for putting his name on the first iteration of the Super League. I worked with, I think it was Gordon Gee and an agency. I know there's a private equity firm that also suggested that, which I think gives some people the heebie-jeebies. But Chancellor Severud, when he was working on that, he asked my opinion on it, and from a couple angles. One, what I thought of the idea, but two, would he put Syracuse in a disadvantageous position from a PR standpoint, goodwill standpoint with other people, if he was advocating for something that some, powerful figures in sports didn't like. And I told him, I said, let's be bold, Chancellor. I mean, there's these are trying times, so let's be at the forefront. And it's interesting how when the concept first came out, people are like, oh, that'll never happen, but it continues to get talked about, right? Mm-hmm. And we're talking about it now. It's an idea that hasn't died yet. Yep. And I think in an ideal world, it would make a lot of sense. It's like a lot of solutions in college athletics now. The solutions are a lot easier than the pathway to get there. So to get to a Super League would be very complicated. And then to your question, Dan, what it would look like and who it would include is very complicated. It'll never be as simple as, okay, it's going to be 40 teams, 50 teams, 60 teams, and let's hand pick those teams, right? There's going to be power drivers. There's going to be some schools that maybe aren't deserving that get dragged along because you have to for political reasons. In terms of the number, Dan, whether it's 2 leagues breaking away and handpicking a few others, or whether it's 4 going as a group, I'm not so sure it'll go either of those ways. I think there's going to be a lot of politics involved, right? So there's going to be, and it's going to have to be bigger than you might think, right? So I would tend to think closer to that 70 number than that 40 number, because we have yet to see, especially in the big state institutions, we have yet to see the lawmakers, the politicians from those states who would potentially be left out. We have yet to see them rear their heads, right? And if you leave out too many and they all come together, that's going to be a big problem.
Well, and I think, with the Save College Sports Act, with Cruz and Cantwell, we saw something that I think plays to my prediction. The autonomy group did not put out a joint statement, but the SEC and the Big 10 did.
Yes.
The Big 12 put out their own statement. The ACC put out their own statement. And the Big 12 and the ACC sounded more positive and optimistic, where the SEC and the Big 10 outright were like, we don't agree with this. So what are your thoughts because we talked about things happened behind the curtains, but now they're happening right in front of our face.
Yeah.
This is right in front of our face, that the autonomy group, Big 12, we're a conference. This is what we think. ACC, we're a conference. This is what we think. SEC, Big 10, private meeting. Let's discuss, and then let's put out the exact same statement. And our statement is going to be different than the rest of our autonomy partners. Your thoughts on how that played out publicly, and maybe what that
means? I mean, it was interesting, and it's a symptom of, the construct of college athletics, right? There's no governing body that has any teeth. It's a little cliche, but no one's looking out for the best interest of the enterprise as a whole,
Yeah.
right? No one wants, everyone's selfish. No one wants to compromise. The most powerful leagues and people are going to want everything they want and compromise on nothing because they're in a position to potentially command that,
Yeah.
right? Whereas you see, even within the Power Four, as you pointed out, the two that aren't the top two um, are tending to agree more with something that would help them, even though if it's not perfect with them. And then you go down to 10, lower down in the 10 conferences in the group of six, they just want some rules so they know how to play the game, right? So different levels of power, different levels of um, what they can command. But at some point, there's going to have to be compromise,
Yeah.
by everyone in order to get to the solution, and we don't have that yet, clearly.
Yeah, and I would say to a point that you brought up before, and your connection to Syracuse. Obviously, it's my hometown, and I built my business from my hometown out to stretch by the grace of God all over this world now, and have the opportunities. I just had the conversation yesterday. I said I have the greatest opportunity. How this was built, I said I have the best of both worlds. I get to be in my hometown, but I get to travel all over the world and be able to do what I love and love what I do. If we had a super league, you talked about Kent Severud and his thoughts on it and your conversations with him. Do you think that Syracuse would be brought into it, or do you think Syracuse would have to sell itself? At the current state of college football for Syracuse, are they a team that maybe gets left out? Do they get dragged in for political reasons, like you said? Where do they lie if this were to happen?
Um, any of the above could happen, and I think a lot of what will happen is going to be dictated by what Syracuse does in the next few years. Um, I think the obvious is they need to be more competitive in the most valuable sports, right? That helps a lot. I think they have certain advantages. Right? Every school has their advantages and their disadvantages that they can never change. I think being the only Power Four institution in the state of New York is a pretty important selling point. I think they need to reclaim the Northeast, right? Syracuse used to have such a Northeast presence, playing at the Garden, playing in New York, playing in New England. If I was Jerry McNamara, I would schedule every single one of their old Big East rivals,
Yeah.
right? Georgetown, Seton Hall, St. John's, UConn, Providence, right? One, because the fans want to see that, right? So it would be good in the short term, but in the long term, it's that presence in the Northeast, right? And I love that they're playing Providence in Boston. I love that they're playing St. John's at the Garden. It was crazy to me that we hadn't played a basketball game in New York in a couple of years period, and in the Garden in several years. That needs to be, our second home. So there's things that need to be done in the short term. There's certain levers that can be pulled, that political lever of being in New York State. And if you think about, all right, what is that New York presence going to be in a super league, right? Well, Penn State football is pretty strong. Basketball is not so good, right? UConn basketball is very strong, right? We haven't even talked about them. They're not, um, they're not in any league in football. Obviously, their football is not very good. Syracuse has been, brings both, right? Potentially, if they can get back to the level of excellence that they have been in the past.
Yeah. And I can appreciate that because I think these next few years are going to make decisions, but you and I are in lockstep where I said the entire non-conference schedule, like, yeah, you can play Canisius and you can play Northeastern, or you can play your Big East rivals and give the fans, like, if you want to get the fans in the stands, you play St. John's, Villanova, Georgetown, UConn, win, lose, or draw, you play those games because that is what the fans want to see. They could be in the ACC for 50 years and the fans are still going to tell you outside of Duke, they want to see Georgetown, UConn, Villanova, St. John's, because Syracuse built the Big East and Syracuse is a main player of it. So, I mean, there's a lot to be said about the fact that I think their schedule has to blend the Big East to the ACC without doubt. I do
And
want,
you bring this conversation back around, Dan,
yeah,
of those, I told you I was 25 straight years at the Big East tournament. Still love it. Unbelievable that the energy is still there, even though it's different than, we remember it. But the one pain point for me is I don't get to see Syracuse playing it. Like that's a, there's a, I could teach a whole class on knowing who you are, being true to your identity, surrounding yourself with like people that are like you, right?
yeah,
Institutions that are like you, working within your region. I could, if this is another show, Dan, but we could go down every single former Big East institution and talk about their success or lack thereof in the sports of men's basketball and football since they left the Big East. And there is not one program that's better off now than they were before. Boston College, Syracuse, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Miami. Not one in
yeah.
either sport.
Well, you do.
Rutgers.
You look
Oh,
at, and you look at UConn, like you said. I mean, just to get back in the Big East, they left their football out to pasture, and it's still there. So, and I would love to have the Big East conversation with you at another time where we can just focus on that because it's a fantastic conversation and it's nostalgic. And I said the farther we get from Syracuse in the Big East, I have not seen anyone's the energy and the desire and the want to and the passion for the Big East of a Syracuse fan has not gone away, no matter how many years they spend in the ACC. And
that's
I've
right.
lived in both worlds. And I respect the Big East and I love being connected to them. And I respect the ACC and I love being connected to them. And if you ask me feet to the fire on any day, where should Syracuse be? I'm going to say I love and respect the ACC. They belong in the Big East. And I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me. And I think in the vein of the Super League and the different things we're talking about, I do firmly believe this, and I've said this within the last year or two. I think whatever's coming, if it really shakes up and just totally changes the landscape of college football, I think we're going to see the return of Big East football in some iteration. I actually think it's a real possibility.
I agree 100%. 100%.
So to get back to the bowl season, you got a bowl in Puerto Rico coming up
Yep.
here. And we talk about how some of these bowls are mainstays and we see them all the time. And obviously part of the bowl system, the six that are in the college football playoff, and they have a ton of history to them and some of the oldest bowls ever played in America. But I'm looking at December 22nd and the Puerto Rico Bowl going to a U.S. territory. Just how did this all come about? And what can you say to this very unique experience and opportunity? And it doesn't have a name like the Gasparilla Bowl because, I don't think it has to. It's like, hey, we're going to be in Puerto Rico. Come and see us.
That's the only name you need on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's people are excited about that one. The Bahamas Bowl is a cool game on an island, similar but very different. The Bahamas is its own country. It's a difficult government to work with. They didn't have an appropriate venue. It was just a game on a field that was on TV. But Puerto Rico, I think fans can get there easier. I think that's a game. It's a group of six game right now. But when you talk about a market-driven system and Power Four teams deciding where they want to play and who they want to play, that's a game that I envision is going to have a bright future ahead of it.
Yeah. And you mentioned Florida has the most bowl games. When you're looking at putting together the bowl season, is it really a year to year when we're looking at who's a part of this? Because some bowls are here and they stay, some go away and return, some new ones find their place, like the Puerto Rico Bowl. So when you're looking at bowl season and you're overseeing it as executive director, are we in a year by year basis of who's their sponsor? How do the conferences feel about these bowl games? Do they like the location? What arena are you playing? What stadium are you playing in? Because I know a lot happens in the old Citrus Bowl down in Orlando, Florida, and I've had a lot of connection and experience with that across a bunch of different, professional and collegiate situations. So is it a year-to-year assessment that when you're trying to assemble the bowl season?
It unfortunately it is now, but it shouldn't be, and it hasn't been. It's really a function of the college football playoff and the uncertainty in terms of the number of teams. So we've kind of been kicking the can down the road. Contracts have been extended by a year, and we're kind of going to have the same matchups for the most part, same games, minus a couple new ones this year. Ideally, it's a longer term partnership. It always has been 4 years, 6 years. It allows venues to be locked in, title sponsors to be locked in. So we'll get back to that. It's just not that right now.
Coming from Nick Carparelli here. We spoke about a lot of different things, and every time we talk, Nick, I feel like we were 5 minutes in and I got 100 more things on my mind, but you're always great at answering the questions, and you always find a way to bring it back to my hometown because I know you got a lot of love for them. So I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your work and your availability and accessibility that you give me, and always look forward to our conversations, and hopefully we get to be in the same place where we can have a face-to-face conversation sometime soon in our journey across this country.
That would be great, Dan. Let's do this again.
All right. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.
All right. Take care.
See you. Nick Carparelli, one more time. Just the opportunity to speak with, and I know that, he'll defer and say, obviously there's a lot of players, there's a lot of people within this, and I don't want to take away from that the conferences are making these decisions, and obviously there's sponsors and there's cities and there's arenas and there's people connected to that. And like in the case of the Yankees with Yankee Stadium, obviously they're connected to their, venue. So the Yankees are a big part of that and the uniqueness of that. And you look at, the Fenway Bowl being at the home of the Boston Red Sox and whatnot. But what I'm getting at here is with so many people making decisions when it comes to bowl season, to be able to speak with the executive director and to peek behind the curtain and to speak on so many different topics that are interwoven into this and obviously stretch far beyond the bowl season itself, which you saw today in this conversation. To me, these are invaluable time capsule conversation opportunities here on Wake Up Call. And I thank Nick Carparelli, the executive director of the Coca-Cola Bowl season, for giving me the opportunity, and I always look forward to the next one. With that being said, we've taken one step aside, one fast break this entire show, and we've been with you for about 2 hours. So I believe in the content of it all, and I appreciate the fact that you're here with me. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. We're going to hear from my fantastic partners because I work with incredible people in this community. And so we're going to jump to them, and we'll be back inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios to wrap things up in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry-loving friend. Right, Lily? In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
Hi, this is Chris Rauda.
And Colleen Rakowski from Gray's Craze of Clay.
It's a fun, innovative, upscale catering solution. We've turned eating into a whole new experience. Each of our boards is packed with delicious mix of artisan cheeses. We use premium cured meats, fresh fruits, nuts, and all of the sweet touches that really bring out the best in every perfect bite.
We offer something as small as a grab and go that feeds one, maybe two people, to our large board that can serve anywhere up to 25, 28 people. So we have the ability to really meet and hopefully exceed all of our customers' expectations when it comes to the different varieties of things that we have.
Charcuterie boards or boxes are healthy, fresh, delicious. They're made to order. We're baking the breads here daily. We're baking the cookies here daily. All of our dips are homemade, made in-house. All of our spreads are all made in-house.
When you open that board or box that we have delivered or you have picked up, we want you to know that it was made with care and designed to completely elevate your event, celebration, or meeting.
We've catered parties and events for up to 300 people. So if you're walking in to grab something for lunch or something for date night or movie night, that's great too. Our events go from you eating in the car on the way home to a catering event in a rehearsal dinner or cocktail hour or party.
When we do, again, know what the event is, specifically for a wedding, we like to schedule tastings so the bride and groom can come in and see what we have to offer, and we can then, as we talk, to try to understand what they're looking for, what the venue's like. We do like to have that one-on-one interaction when it comes to catering bigger events.
Our address is 4599 State Route 31, Suite 5, in Clay, New York. We're on the corner of Route 31 and Henry Clay at Clay Marketplace.
You can order on the phone by calling area code 315-409-4171 or online at grayscraze.com/clay-ny. Come visit us at Gray's Craze of Clay, New York,
where we want you to celebrate everything.
Hey everybody, this is Rockney Roberts from Willow Rock Brewing Company. We are here in Cicero at the Willow Rock Pizza Pub.
And I'm Kevin Williams, also from Willow Rock Brewing Company. Happy to be here and happy to be partnering with CNS and Dan Tortora.
You want some place where you can feel comfortable and hopefully ingratiate yourself with the community. And Kevin, he grew up right down the road from here. I grew up in Brewerton, so not too far away. We know the area, we know the people, they're great, and we were just really excited to be able to come to the area.
Yeah, and having the opportunity to meet some of these coaches, some of the people in general already, and seeing the CNS colors kind of around, and already partnering on a smaller level with individual teams really made this make sense to us to really formalize kind of a partnership partnership with the school and get this rolling.
Willow Rock to me has always been about high quality beverages, high quality experiences, and now high quality food in our pizza pub. That was something new for us when we came to Cicero. Right from the drop, we knew we were going to have a focus on the highest quality food to go with our high quality beer. At the Willow Rock Pizza Pub, you're getting high quality, hand cut, top notch ingredients. We're open for lunch. That's a really important thing for us, is to be able to get that person in here like, hey, you only got 30 minutes for lunch, but we're going to have something for you that you can get quickly and available to everybody.
Yeah, we wanted something that was just a little bit outside the box, a little bit outside of comfort zone, but still something that you could rely on to be consistent and easy to look at and easy to be like, oh, I can see myself eating this. I can see myself wanting to have that more than once. Eating a whole pizza like our beef on weck pizza, I've never seen one anywhere. It's just a great ideas, great inspiration across the board. We're their spot to stop. We're their friendly neighborhood watering hole, as well as pizza place and place to stop for a restaurant. Not just beer drinkers here. We've got wines, we got cocktails, we got non-alcoholic stuff for the kids.
The location is more important today than it ever has been before, and we're lucky enough to be here in Cicero. The Willow Rock Pizza Pub is a place where you can bring your family. You can come in, you can grab a soda, you can relax. You can come after a game, before a game, your parents, your grandparents. Our goal is to make sure that everyone's comfortable here. We want students, we want athletes, we want your coaches. It's going to be a good time. So come here, enjoy the high quality food, high quality beverage that we're going to offer to everybody. And hey, go North Stars.
We're so happy to have the North Stars. We are very much a kid-friendly establishment. We have tons of space outside for everybody to be playing outside, as well as listening to live music, enjoying some pizza.
The Willow Rock Pizza Pub is open 6 days a week here in Cicero. That is Tuesday through Sunday. And our website is willowrockbrew.com, and our socials are at Willow Rock Brew. So find us on the net, find us in person. We'll see you soon.
Avicoli's restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicoli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on in to the neighborhood spot Avicoli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to k9campground.com as well. That's KAMP ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily?
Hello, this is Dylan Husted, the owner of the Baked Potato Express. We do mostly big festivals or big corporate like private events. Typically just big festivals such as like Taste of Syracuse, Food Truck Battle, Battle of the Wings. I do the State Fair. They're ordering from a fresh food truck that is making real food and happy to make it and wants them to enjoy every bite. We season every potato before they go in the oven, and then they bake for an hour, and when they come out, we season them again after we cut them. We use real butter, real cheese, real ingredients, so it's all really good food and people love it. We have a lot of returning customers and regulars that we see very often. The customers really make a big impact, and this is a big food truck community. The events here are super busy. It's like in my blood. I like building things and creating stuff that people love, and me and my friends are the ones that run the truck, so it's kind of, we keep it's a tight circle in there, and we have like a family sort of oriented truck, and it's a lot of fun, and we have a good time doing it, and people love our food, so it ends up making it well for everybody. You can contact the Baked Potato Express at thebakedpotatoexpress@gmail.com or the Baked Potato Express on Instagram or TikTok. We are very happy to be partnered up with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as the exclusive sponsor of the Annoying Moment of the Week. And be sure to try DT's baked potato creation at all of our food trucks. The Baked Potato Express. Let's get baked.
Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at greatlakeshondacity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios, who you just heard from. Great Lakes Honda City coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. They are open for sales and service. Speaking of Great Lakes Honda City, Monday through Saturday on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. And of course, they're open all the time online at greatlakeshondacity.com. Want to make a note here before we hop out of today's broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and that is that tonight I am very honored and privileged to be making history with Cicero North Syracuse High School. So Tracy Lieberman, who teaches media of all different kinds on the wonderful campuses of the junior high and the high school for Cicero North Syracuse, she asked me last year to come in and teach. And she said, no school in the community has done anything like this with podcasting and broadcasting and how we're teaching and bringing somebody in. And she asked me to be a part of this. I had no idea we were making history. I just was interested in helping out the kids and helping a friend. And so last year, I feel very honored that we got to do that in Central and Upstate New York, is to make some history. And this year, she asked me to come back, and not only to the high school, but to the junior high. And so we got to make history with the junior high, having podcasting, broadcasting, learning the art of interviewing and all of that. And 22 years plus of me out here in the broadcast journalism world, to be asked to come in is a true and humbling honor for me from Tracy. And I would defer to her and say that she is the fantastic piece of all of this, and she gives me credit. I'm just honored to be asked to be there, and I'm going to give whatever I can, because I believe that who are we if we can't help other people and give to somebody what we didn't have? I didn't have any of this growing up. So went to the junior high this year and made some history, and then went back to the high school at CNS. And I said to them, hey, there's a couple things that have never been done before on top of the history that we've created over the last couple of years. And that is that no school has ever joined me in broadcasting my show in the morning during my hours, of 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time. So we had to adjust it a little bit because the class was earlier for the super class. So we adjusted it to a little bit after 8 a.m. Eastern time. But I had never had a class co-host my show with me on site, on location at a high school. And we did that with CNS with the super class taught by Tracy Lieberman. Tonight, we're making even more history, as I don't believe this has ever happened. If they've never had someone come in and teach for what I got asked to do from Tracy last year and this year to a high school in Central and Upstate New York, well, there's never been a high school that, as part of their curriculum and as part of the lesson, has broadcasted on site, on location, in the community at a business. And so I have a wonderful partnership with Willow Rock and with the Pizza Pub on 6200 South Bay Road in Cicero, New York. And we had our once a month broadcast coming up for June. And I thought to myself, okay, what can we do with this? I spoke with Tim Bednarski, the athletic director, and he said, I'd love to have the North Star Network there. And I said, okay, broadcasting students, would love to have them be a part of it, journalism students. And then as I was teaching Tracy's class, I thought, why don't we have their final piece of my teaching? Why don't we have that live broadcast that we did last year? Why don't we bring that into the community and allow people's families to be there? So instead of them watching them online, which is great that they support and watch and listen to the show, why don't we put them in a situation where their mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt and uncle, cousins, significant others, friends, peers, that they can come and support them and physically be there to watch this historic moment? Because for a lot of these students, this is their first ever broadcast live. So instead of doing it at the high school at CNS for the final class, we're doing it tonight at Willow Rock. And we'll be on 6200 South Bay Road in Cicero, New York, tonight, June 11th at 5:30 p.m., where Tracy Lieberman's Media 2 classes are going to be taking the podcasts they created, the logos and the names that they came up with in their small groups. They're going to unveil them. Their tagline, their topics, their script, everything they've been working on for the last couple classes at the CNS High School in Media 2 under Tracy Lieberman, and I being asked to come in and help teach this. They're going to unveil those to the community, to the world, to their families and their loved ones today, on site, on location at Willow Rock. This has never been done before. So I'm going to see what they're bringing to the table. They're going to unveil their shows, and then we're going to end the night with the North Star Network. And I could not be more excited and more happy for these students and to make history, to bring it to Willow Rock, which is a local business that has CNS, less than 2 miles down the road. And I implore you to come out. If you didn't go to CNS, if you don't have any kids there, I implore you to come out. This is an historic moment for the community, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it and to, kind of bridge these things together of the CNS media classes and the North Star Network and what Tracy Lieberman's doing all throughout the year to a place like Willow Rock, and to let Wake Up Call be a stage for these students to showcase themselves, show what they've learned, and to really do something they've never done before. So I hope that you will come out to Willow Rock tonight, Thursday, June 11th at 5:30 p.m. We will start with the Media 2 classes from Tracy Lieberman, and these small groups will, one by one, sit in front of the camera and in front of the microphone at Willow Rock, presented by Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and Willow Rock Pizza Pub, and they will be broadcasting their podcasts that they worked on creating the logo, the tagline, and the naming of, as well as what they want it to be about, and their questions for tonight. They will be unveiling all of that for the first time to the community, to their friends, to their family, to the world, and then we're going to round out the night with the North Star Network, who has done a tremendous job to create a professional experience at the high school level at Cicero North Syracuse. So I can't wait for it. We're putting a spotlight on our students here in Central and Upstate New York and giving them something they've never had before. I'm honored that God allows me to do what I love and love what I do, and that I can create something like this. I'm excited for Willow Rock to be a part of it. Of course, I am grateful to CNS, to Tim Bednarski, and to the administration and the community and the school district, and beyond everyone else under God. I'm grateful in this event and this entire opportunity to Tracy Lieberman, because without her, none of this comes together, and I wouldn't even know her students. So I can't wait to see what the students are going to bring us. I know you're going to do a tremendous job. I'm already proud of you. I'm humbled by this, and I am grateful to God and to you and to the community that you're letting me be a part of this and to really get to orchestrate tonight, which is all about the kids. So I look forward to you coming out to Willow Rock for dinner and to watch and support the community as we make history with CNS media students as well as the North Star Network. We look forward to you seeing you at Willow Rock tonight and can't wait for the opportunity. I'll take one final step aside and we'll wrap things up right after this on Wake Up Call inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Gina Husted. I'm part owner of Skippy's Ice Cream. The other half is my better half, Don Husted Jr. When somebody comes up to the truck and it's a family, it's nice that the older generation is nostalgic and they can tell the younger generation, back in my day, we used to have the truck around our neighborhood. So now you're lucky because the truck can come to your party, and you're lucky that this truck is at a festival and you're getting to buy the ice cream. And basically we're ice cream that comes to you now, specifically comes to you, not for you waiting for us, we're coming to you. We will do neighborhoods if you have a block party. We do birthdays, we do anniversaries, we do celebrations of life, we do wedding showers, we do festivals, we'll do corporate events, we have a lot of corporate picnics, we have family reunions, so it's a whole wide range of whatever party you have, we'd love to be at. We're so appreciative of the community, always coming up to us at festivals and calling us to have different events. We have a lot of return customers. We always have people coming up to our truck. We're always there for the community. We always try to give back to different organizations and fundraisers, and so I think the community sees that. We like to give back to them. This is where we live. This is where we were raised. This is where our kids were raised. So the community is very special to us. I mean, obviously we've lived here our whole lives, so it means a lot that they come up to our truck and that they choose us, because we're just there to please the community and deal with as many people as we can in this community, because this is, like I said, where we were born and raised. If you'd like to get in touch with Skippy's Ice Cream and have us at your next event, I would suggest using our email, skipthecake, skipthecake, skipthecake@gmail.com. That's the fastest way to get a hold of us. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us, and that's going to get the fastest response from us. If you choose to call, if you don't have an email, then you can call 315-456-9750, and we'll be glad to get back to you as soon as we can. Skippy's Ice Cream, the original ice cream truck.
And now a message from Myers Creek Brewing Company, with locations at their Cazenovia Farm Brewery, Syracuse Inner Harbor Tap Room, and soon-to-be Lake Placid Tap Room.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Feldmeyer family and our team are extremely passionate about what we do. We care very much about what we do. The Feldmeyer family is always investing. Our taproom management team, our brew management team, our marketing management team, and all of the team members that get after it every day, they leave it on the field. They put their heart and soul into it. I know for a fact that everyone that works at Myers Creek wants to be there, and we want them to be there. You know, we want them to feel good about their job. And again, if you've never been to a Myers Creek, especially to the brewery, I mean, I want your eyes to open really big. I want you to see how big of a brand this is. I want you to see where we're going. The sky is the limit, and I feel very proud of that, and I'm very excited about that. When you think of designing a menu for a brewery, it's kind of open to a lot of different interpretations. I mean, you can do American, you can do Asian, you can do Italian, and you just have to find, you know, how that meets that pub style dining experience, that gastropub vibe. And I think it's super fun for us because obviously we know that, you know, everyone in the world's going to sell a pizza or a burger or a french fry, but what can we do to be different? And what can we do to be true to who we are? We are a brewery, you know, a brew pub. So the flavor profiles are kind of all over the place. And I think it's super cool that we have a massive smoker at the brewery in Cazenovia, and we smoke a lot of our products. A delicious smoked turkey. We have barbecue ribs on Sundays. From a pulled pork sandwich to a chicken wing, you go to the Inner Harbor and you go to the Caz location and you'll find similarities in the menu, but also things that are a little different and also kind of fit those different demographics or different communities, and also hopefully just drive you to try every tap room that we have open at some point, because you get a little something different at each one. You know, we understand how hard it is to, you know, work every day and get after it every day, and when you're done at the end of your day, you want to go out and put your feet up in a good ambiance and good environment. So we take pride in that. We make sure that everyone knows that they're very much valued to us.
The Wildcat Sports Club in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. Head over to GG Cards and Breaks and be a big kid. See their display cases, so many of them, with the cards that they have, the singles and the graded cards. Could find your favorite player, or could find somebody that ends up being your favorite player. You never know what's going to happen. Sometimes you're looking for the card. Sometimes the card looks for you. And at GG Cards and Breaks, you'll find plenty of cards, be it Disney Lorcana, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, One Piece, as well as soccer, hockey, basketball, baseball, football, and more while supplies last. GG Cards and Breaks with packs and boxes for you to open and not know what you're going to get, or singles and graded cards to know exactly what you're bringing home. I like to have a mixture of both. I like to look for my favorite players and favorite teams, and at the same time, I always like getting a pack or a box because you never know what's going to be inside of that. And it's something like opening a birthday gift or a Christmas gift at any time during the year. Head out to GG Cards or Breaks. Let them know the DT sent you to 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6 and on Sundays from 10 to 5. Big time shout out to Chick-fil-A in DeWitt on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. You will find them with not only the favorites that you love, with the original chicken and the spicy chicken and the grilled chicken sandwiches, as well as the nuggets, the mac and cheese, and their shakes, but they now have the pineapple dragon fruit beverage here, made with natural pineapple and dragon fruit flavors. Pineapple dragon fruit has found its refreshing way to Chick-fil-A in DeWitt. Go to the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard and get the flavors and the wonderful timeless specials you love from Chick-fil-A, as well as trying the new pineapple dragon fruit from Megan Sorber and her team on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. We look forward to seeing you over there, and we thank Chick-fil-A DeWitt for all they do in our community. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, as always, I'm happy to be with you up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.mixlr.com, our live internet streaming radio. Many thanks to Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube for carrying our show. They're for free to follow, download, and subscribe. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on your favorite podcasting platforms. You can also ask Alexa or your Google device to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and they will do that for you as well. Many thanks to our wonderful partners that you can support, and we hope that you support, and thank you for all of you that have already supported in Central and Upstate New York: Great Lakes Honda City, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Myers Creek, the Baked Potato Express, Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Skippy's Ice Cream, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Brian's Landing, Gray's Craze of Clay, New York, Game Point Sports Complex, Avicoli's, Chick-fil-A in DeWitt, Willow Rock Brewing Company and the Willow Rock Pizza Pub, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, and of course we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of yours. Binghamton University Bearcats. It is Bearcat time every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Find student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Binghamton University. All of our content can be found over the years by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt for our time capsule. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Binghamton playlist. The Bearcats are also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com, and as always, go Bearcats. I want to thank Myers Creek, as always, both of their locations on 33 Rippleton Road in Cazenovia and on 720 Van Rensselaer Street in Syracuse, in the Syracuse Inner Harbor, right by the aquarium that's being built in Syracuse. I want to thank Myers Creek for being the exclusive partner of the Central and Upstate New York High School Player of the Week. And one more time, shout out Colin Crinan, the pitcher of West Genesee, who had 10 strikeouts in their most recent game that aided the team in his 6 innings pitched in a 2-1 victory to move forward past Bethlehem to play in the New York State semifinals with an opportunity for a New York State title after winning a Section 3 Class AA title already this season. And I say to Kevin Krause, as well as the student athletes, the families, and everybody involved with the West Genesee baseball program, to have safe travels and God bless, no stress, do your best. The same for Liverpool baseball that spent time with me last night at Avicoli's, and you can watch our 3-part series by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and I will share those for you as well. And to all the teams, baseball and softball wise, out there fighting for championships, God bless to each and every single one of you. Safe travels. May you stay healthy, and may the best team win, and may you all, more than anything else, do your best, have fun, and make memories with your teammates and your loved ones. Want to thank Dave Paziak, as always, for his NBA coverage, coming off of one of the craziest, if not the craziest, game in NBA Finals history, a 29-point deficit overcome by the Knicks, and OG Anunoby tipping the ball in for a 107-106 victory over the Spurs to take a 3-1 lead, going 1-1 at home in the Garden and 2-0 on the road in San Antonio. They'll head back to San Antonio this weekend on Saturday for Game 5, with the Knicks having the opportunity to win the NBA Finals on the road. And many thanks to Nick Carparelli, the executive director of Coca-Cola Bowl season, for a fantastic conversation that went to so many places, and all it did was open up doors for many conversations to come. So I want to thank, once again, Myers Creek, shout out Colin Crinan, thank Dave Paziak, and thank Nick Carparelli. I hope you all have a beautiful, wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you tonight, Thursday, June 11th, for dinner at 5:30 at Willow Rock Pizza Pub on 6200 South Bay Road in Cicero, New York, as we make history with the Media 2 class from Cicero North Syracuse High School, as well as the North Star Network, broadcasting live on-site, on location, for the first time ever from Willow Rock, and doing it on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. As always, God bless, no stress, do your best. Have a fantastic day. Be kind to each other, be kind to yourself, and don't ever run away from something beautiful in your life. Take care.